gathered here. It's been 75 years of independence, and India has got 75 wetlands with Ramsar Tag. And we at Citizen Matters have all gathered here to discuss how this tag is going to help in reviving Chennai's Pallikaranai Marsh, which is the only wetland in Chennai that has got the tag. So we have four experts in our panel. One, Mr. Dr. Jayshree Vencatesan. She's the managing trustee of Care Earth Trust, who's been very instrumental in taking measures to conserve the marsh for over 2 decades, and whose efforts have paid off by getting the tag, Ramsar Tag. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to our panel. We have Mr. V. Srinivasan. He's the convener of Save Pallikaranai Marshland Forum. He's an activist involved in environmental and human rights work since 1980. The Save Pallikaranai Marshland Forum was formed in 2000. It's a broad coalition of activists, naturalists, biodiversity groups, and residents association. Welcome, sir. We'll be having Dr. Indumathi Nambi. She'll be joining us shortly. She's a professor at Environment and Water Resource Division at the Department of Civil Engineering, IIT Madras. She's also a member of several expert committees in both state and central government. She's also been researching on the implications of dumpyard on Pallikaranai Marsh. Hello, ma'am. Good evening. We have Dr. Janakarajan. He's an economist from Madras Institute of Development Studies. He's been working on water, ecology, and environmental issues for over 3 decades now. Welcome to the panel, sir. So, yes, I would like to start from Dr. Jayshree. Ma'am, you have been working on the Pallikaranai Marsh for over 2 decades now, and starting from reclassifying the wetland from earlier it was wasteland to the wetland. Your journey has been a huge. So could you help us understand your journey and how, can you tell your story, like how your journey has been so far?
Journey has been very interesting. I should certainly say that. But it would also be quite erroneous to say that we were leading the whole thing. Trying to be humble or anything like that. We've all been in this. In fact, Srini and I go back a long way. We've all been in this. And one thing that stood out as far as Pallikaranai Marsh, the entire, if I can use the word saga, of having it designated from a wasteland to a wetland to a Ramsar site, has been the kind of unstinted support that we have received from a whole lot of people. Many of them are present in this today's meeting as well. That has been the most characteristic and outstanding feature of the whole thing. So this is also the second outstanding feature, I would say. It's the fact that this was not something that was driven by a funding agenda. In fact, that's something that I'm totally proud about. We had very little funds, and maybe that's what galvanized people to action. Very little funds. In fact, the first grant that we were given to do the basic research on Pallikaranai Marsh was 32,500 rupees. With that, we were able to start our work and sustain it over a long period of time. That would be the second interesting feature. The third is the kind of continuous engagement that we've been able to have with the government on this, especially the Tamil Nadu Forest Department. We've been working very closely with them. That's also been very interesting. And fourth, and the most interesting thing to me, at least as far as Pallikaranai Marsh is concerned, is the kind of enigmatic nature of this marsh. We all know that it's been under stress, it's been degraded, part of the abuse still continues. But still the species being recorded from that marsh continues to increase. And more charismatic species are getting described. So that enigma part of it has also been very, very interesting. I really do not know if I've answered your question, but this would be my answer.
Right. So you have been working with the application process for Ramsar Tag. So can you help us understand how this application process is done? Like, what are the criteria that wetland has satisfied? Like, why Pallikaranai Marsh has got, and what are we going to get from it?
Basically, Ramsar certification has a set of 9 criteria divided into 2 sections, section A and B. Largely focusing on birds, but also hydrological services, fish and other non-avian fauna, plant diversity and stuff like that. This was actually a part of a project that was commissioned to us by the State Wetland Authority to develop applications for 20 wetlands as potential Ramsar sites. Pallikaranai happened to be one of them. In fact, out of the 13 that have been designated as Ramsar sites today in Tamil Nadu, 10 applications were drafted. Now, Pallikaranai stands out, or it was readily recognized as a wetland of international importance, primarily because it fulfills all the 9 criteria. All the 9 criteria that are listed in the application are fulfilled by Pallikaranai. So that is why the job was made very easy. The second thing is, this kind of work involves a lot of data. It's a data-intensive exercise, and aided by the fact that we have 20 years of data, virtually non-stop. It's a very long-term kind of data. It was very easy for us to fill up the application. That is how the whole thing went about. What would happen now is, parallel to this activity, we've also developed the integrated management plan. That's in fact mandatory. When you get the Ramsar certification, you're expected to execute the conservation and restoration program with the help of an integrated management plan. That also has been developed by us because we were fortunate to do the management plan, the earlier version of the management plan. So there was some basic material available. Now that integrated management plan has to be vouched for by Government of India. Once that is done, action will set in and things will start rolling. That is where we are.
Thank you, ma'am. Pallikaranai marshland is how a lot of organization, all the stakeholders can come together and conserve the wetland. So we have Mr. Srinivasan, as we said earlier. So, sir, can you please tell us, you have been a witness to the wetland, like you have seen it, deteriorate over the years. Can you share your experience on how you have seen the wetland earlier and how it has changed over the time?
Well, my journey began somewhere in 1976 when I was a student of the Madras Christian College. So we used to take the bus to go to the college that side. So I have seen the marsh then, which was, we all knew it was a kaiveli with a lot of water around and tall grasses, And then subsequent to my graduation, I started working in all the villages around Tambaram. So that's when Pallikaranai and all those areas, while moving there, I found that people were using this grass, the vegal grass, for housing, and every year there would be a sort of an auction like thing. The entire village up to Medavakam would use that grass. So that was when, we knew that how local resources was being utilized by communities, around. So all we knew at that time was just it was a big open land with a lot of water and a lot of birds and things would come. It was then by a chance thing that Opili, who was then a journalist with the Hindu, started to write, and I had met him on few occasions, and that's when he said, why not we do something, to protect this marsh, because by then the Chennai corporation had been given about 75 acres to dump the city's waste, and then the degradation started around 2000, that's when we decided to sort of mobilize communities. And it has been a journey over the last 20 years. Probably the success is also that there has been various people involved in it. Jayshree from Kerala was the main behind, who would sort of, provide the complete ecological, the flora, fauna data and all that. And then there was the residents in and around the marsh who were also keen and who also had various problems in terms of the letting out of sewage, their groundwater getting polluted. So the uniqueness of the struggle was that it was a people's movement, even till today. It's not the Save Pallikaranai Marshland Forum had not turned itself into anything. As Jayshree was also saying about her thing with mere this thing, till today there is no 5 paisa that we have collected from people. Every time there is a struggle or a meeting, we would just throw the hat and collect whatever is required to. So a series of agitations were planned by the people. So the forum came into being after 2 or 3 rounds of discussion. So the uniqueness of this is that there was activists involved, biodiversity research organizations like CARE, journalists, then resident associations, around Velicheri, Thurapakam, and all of them. Everyone moved in, to ensure that this place is conserved, and that's how it all began.
How did you get your message across when you gather the people?
See, there was a series of, because one of the things that we did was that every October 2nd on Gandhi Jayanti, we would do a satyagraha. So for almost for 5 years, we did that at various places around the march. One was the Velicheri Road we began with, and then we moved on to the Thurapakam radial road. So like that. Then the other one was on the Wetlands Day on February. We used to hold a sort of one was a huge cloth banner was tied across the marsh, and we got all the children from nearby schools, including the government school from Thurapakam, to just reflect on what this whole marsh was. And to the surprise, that most of the children, drew about the birds there, and things like that. So that's how the mobilization started. So at various times, it was on Gandhi Jayanti Day, we would hold the Satyagraha. Then on Wetlands Day, we would invite children from schools to come and draw, and then there were small documentaries by some of these naturalist photographers who did, so we took it around to communities, screened it about what the marsh, the degradation of the marsh. That's where a series of mobilization effort went on, for almost about 5-6 years.
What were the other things that you did? Did you go out a legal battle to save the marsh?
Well,
What were the other?
by 2005-6, when this whole issue had, the state government came out with a proposal that they wanted. By then, the IT industries had moved in there in a big way. OMR, was the area for all the IT industries. So there was a very strange proposal of a golf course to be set up. That's when we really moved in, and to our to help on our side, what happened was there was this massive rains that year, and completely large areas were flooded. So the CM then, Ms. Jayalalitha, took an aerial survey, when large areas of South Chennai were flooded. And then she realized that it was not an ideal situation to do a golf course. Then the bureaucrats with her, suggested that that proposal should be given up, So that was dropped. But subsequently, the corporation around 2009-10 started this huge volume of waste which was being dumped every day. They said that with an Australian technology, we would come with a waste to energy plant. So they held a meeting, though there was a committee. We demanded that a committee should inspect and hold a public hearing. First time it was Sheila Rani Chuntat, who was then the environment secretary. So she was also very conscious about the marsh to be conserved. And then at that public hearing, we all vociferously protested and said that this cannot happen. She submitted her her proposals that it should be given up. But however, the Chennai Corporation went ahead and they also held a public hearing in which we again, put forth our strong objections. But however, they wanted to go ahead. And that's when, on behalf of the forum, I filed a public interest litigation. And then it was the National Environment Appellate Authority in Delhi. Subsequently, it has become the NGT. So after around 2 or 3 years, the southern bench of NGT was constituted in Chennai. So the first judgment that the NGT gave was about Pallikaranai in Marsh, and it was struck down that the waste to energy plant cannot be put, in the marsh. So these were some of the legal struggles also that we went in when at various points of time, there were attempts to ensure that whatever remained of the marsh, was also to be taken over for dumping or for other purposes.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, sir. I'll move on to Dr. Indumathi. Ma'am, you've been working on the implications of dump yard on the Pallikaranai marsh. Can you share your thoughts on the research? Your research. You're muted, ma'am.
Yeah, so we have been working on assessment of the water quality and the sediment quality in the marshland. I think it started way back when Jayshree took me when I joined as a faculty in IIT Madras. I think it was 2007 or 8 sometime. My first introduction to Pallikaranai marshland was through Jayshree. She took her in her car, and I saw how passionate she was about showing this place to us, a few faculty from IIT. So that project actually did not come through. It was, I think, from the forest department people had approached us. But then from IIT Madras, when we launched this Indo-German Center for Sustainability, this thing was there in my mind, and I proposed that we should take it up for assessment. And so we got some seed grant to do a monitoring of Pallikaranai marshland, the water, sediments, and groundwater around the Pallikaranai marshland. And we got data which showed that there is contamination in the marshland. And then recently, a few years ago, Chennai Corporation, when they were planning for the dump site restoration, or to look at what to do, how to manage the waste, again, some of this data I presented before them and said that there is a chance of contamination coming from the dump site. So we need to investigate what is happening from the dump site. So it was good that they were quite open to that, and because they were planning for activities to change the way they manage the waste. And so we got some fund from Professor to understand in and around the dump site what are the issues. And we did find that there is metals and organics and a lot of salinity in the water, also groundwater, and the sediments, both in the dump site and also in the vicinity of the dump site. So there is a pattern, and we all know that ours is an open dump site. It's not lined. So all that we dump eventually is going to go into the environment. So there are concerns, and so we have even documented it. So I think corporation has taken a note of that, and now they are set up systems where they can actually recover the waste from the dump site and clear up most of these legacy waste sitting in the landfill.
I'd like to know your thoughts on two things, ma'am. One is your take on the Ramsar tag for the Pallikaranai and the waste to energy project that earlier Mr. Srinivasan was mentioning about.
I don't know much about the Ramsar status. I'm not an authority on that. Waste to energy, if you want me to comment on, yeah, I think in India, the waste to energy plants have failed. One in Delhi and one in Pune was set up. But so unless we have a proper system in place for the emissions side of it, waste to energy may not be the right solution, even though the waste is segregated and then it goes to the waste to energy plant. But if I'm only putting an if clause here, if there are systems in place, like Europe has gone big on waste to energy, right? So if there are proper systems in place, waste to energy is not a bad idea, because we have a lot of plastics, cloth. If you go to Perangudi dump site, that's all that is left over. The biodegradables have gone. It is the plastics, the cloth, the rubber, okay, which are all having a very high calorific value. And now they are hauling it 200, 300 kilometers to Trichy to get it burnt in a cement plant. And look at all the carbon footprint for hauling all this waste all the way to Trichy. So you have to look at it in a holistic manner. That is my suggestion. If systems are in place for controlling emissions, and if operated well, managing the waste locally is the best solution.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Janakarajan, sir, I have a question for you. So, why do you think we have to conserve Pallikaranai marsh? What do you think is the significance of this particular marsh? And what is your take on the Ramsar tag for this particular marshland?
Before going into talking about Pallikaranai marsh in particular, I must tell you that Chennai city, okay, is blessed with not only Pallikaranai marshland, but also two other major wetlands. On the northern side, extreme north, you got a Pulikat Lake, and then on the Ennur region, we got Ennur Creek, Ennur wetland, estuary, and then on the south, we got Pallikaranai marsh. I would think this is a blessing, and being a coastal region, coastal city, these are extremely necessary for you to protect the city, protect the people of Chennai city from not only coastal flooding and sea level rise, and also to conserve water. These are supposed to be the flood carriers. These are supposed to be the flood carriers so that the people of the region are saved from the floods. Take, for instance, Chennai city. Chennai city is, northern side, the Ennur Creek and the region, something like a 10,000 acres, 9,500, 9,700 acres of the region. It's a 50% of it has been occupied, encroached. And though the water from the Aranyar, Kosasthala, and Nandia are used to be stored in that marshland, and Ennur Creek today, because of its encroachment, North Chennai is in great danger. But the water from the Aranyar and Kosasthala has not reduced. So northern part of Chennai is exposed to flood, one. And then the southern side, you got a Pallikaranai marsh. It used to be actually a flood moderator. And apart from its other usual the functions of the marshland, like it contributes to food and contributing to hydrological cycle and flora, fauna, biodiversity, and all those. Apart from all those regular functions, I would say it was such an important flood regulator for southern part of the Chennai. Jayshree would know that it was spread over an area of something like 54 square kilometers. Today it is reduced to 1/10 of it, something like 5.4 square kilometers, and now even that. Shobana, I must tell you, you call it a wetland. I don't call it a wetland, it's a dry land. Where is the water? Is it wet all through the year? How can you call it a wetland? Is it really a wetland? It's a question mark. Because these wetland, and particularly Pallikaranai marsh wetland, used to get the surpluses of something like 135 tanks in the upstream. All the waters from the upstream tanks on the southern side of the Chennai used to really flow and get stored in the Pallikaranai marsh. Today, it is dry because there are bridges we have created. Many bridges we have created. For instance, the road from Taramani to Tambaram is a ridge. It's a huge ridge. Therefore, water from one side of the road to the other side doesn't flow. And then even on the other one side where the NAOT is existing, people have created their own islands because they elevated the land. Water doesn't flow, and there are lots of residential colonies, lots of industries, lots of roads, and so the water doesn't flow that freely. So the area gets flooded. Many areas in the upstream gets flooded, but Pallikaranai Marsh doesn't get water except during the monsoon months. During the rest of the year, it is dry. You call it a wetland. And historically, when the Buckham Canal was not existing, when the OMR and ECR was not existing, Pallikaranai Marsh used to attract a lot of water from the upstream, and it got stored because the water was not really flowing into the sea. It got stored because the Pallikaranai Marsh was actually below sea level, at least half a meter, 1 meter below sea level. It was such a beautiful ecosystem. Now that it got silted up so heavily with the garbage and so on, now that the ridges have been created all over, water doesn't flow. And I really don't know. And we are very lucky. I'm very glad that we got that Ramsar tag, despite all these problems. Imagine, had it been a case of the wetland that existed 100 years ago, 200 years ago, imagine what would have been the kind of a scene. Unfortunate. But at least we have got now something to handle. Can we protect it? In fact, the legacy waste that the Indu was talking about, it's something, I'm really worried about. They are doing the biomining activity. In this biomining, they are picking up all biodegradable. They call it biodegradable. How about the microplastics? The plastics have become powdered, got mixed with the biodegradable waste. And can you dump it in the land? Can you call it a biomanure? I have my own doubts. It needs to really undergo a
So your audio is interrupting.
I think he has network issues.
I think so, ma'am. He's just muted. Sir, you're muted, sir. Can you please check your audio?
To protect your wetland, even now, I really don't know how far are we going to be successful. What is going to be the fate of it 10 years from now?
Well, so, Mr. Srinivasan, I can't see him on the.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. Yeah. So, so now that we have got the tag, what is the next course of action of the forum? What is the larger goal of the forum and the next course of action?
See, the tag is something that, is not something that we are extremely, while we will be proud of it, the issues continue, as Janakarajan and all of them pointed out. How do we deal with the legacy waste, which is there, then how do people in and around the marsh be able to have sustainable living there with so much of garbage still being dumped, where groundwater pollution is extremely high, so hopefully the tag will put an end to the dumping of waste by the corporation. Then it's something to be cheered about.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, Indu ma'am, so I have a, what do you think is the Pallikaranai Marsh's role in Chennai's climate crisis? So, and what do you think would be the way forward from here? Ma'am, you're on mute.
Yeah. Again, I'm not an authority on climate, but I can say that the marshland it's already doing its role, the ecosystem role. So whatever we are predicting, because of climate change, there can be flooding, there can be drought, there can be groundwater depletion, saline water intrusion. A lot of things are going to be the aftermath, like we're already seeing it, right? And marshlands and wetlands are known to be make the whole water systems resilient, make that they can handle the extremes of climate and all these impacts of climate change, what is being predicted. Marshlands can help us get over these kind of extremities, particularly with respect to water. It is very important to preserve the marshland so that it can perform its ecosystem services, we call that, including groundwater protection, flood mitigation, saline water intrusion, everything.
Thank you, ma'am. Jayshree, ma'am. So, the wetland has already been protected under the Tamil Nadu Forest Department's Forest Act. So, what additional kind of audit? What are the audits that has been done so far when it was under the protection of the Forest Department, and what are the audits that would be done going forward with the Ramsar Tag?
Any area that's under the category of a reserve forest or reserve land, I mean, any kind of protection by the department goes through an annual exercise of review, data searching, data consolidation, curation, and all that. And then it gets incorporated in bits and pieces when the management plans are drafted every 5 years. So, for instance, with reference to Pallikaranai, every year there's a bird census that's taken up. That's given to one of the NGOs, and they do it along with some citizen science initiatives and stuff like that. This is a regular routine feature, but that alone is not enough. The kind of research that's needed to sustain whatever we have done till now is a bit more complex and a bit more requiring expertise like the ones that Professor Indumathi spoke about. You need that level of research. This basic level of research may not help in actually achieving the goal that we've set ourselves. See, one thing about Ramsar site, this also answers your question to Professor Indumathi in a very roundabout manner. Getting the Ramsar designation is half the job done. It's not something we should certainly celebrate it. We should certainly be very happy about it. But that doesn't mean it's end of all. It's heaven, and so we can now shut shop and be happy about it. Because one thing that the Ramsar site brings in as a kind of a merit is the continuous monitoring that there will be eyes on the marsh. The kind of work that's being done on the marsh will be continuously reviewed by the Ramsar Secretariat through its officers, through other NGOs and all that. And there is every chance that if you're not seen to be doing your job well, you'll be pushed into a negative list, which is called a Montreux list. Once you get into that list, again, it becomes your job to revert from there, do some concerted action and then come back to your designation is actually put on a back burner. Then you have to work at getting it back. So that's one thing that needs to be done. But as far as this designation itself is concerned, the government is expected, the parent department is expected to draft what is called the Integrated Management Plan, IMP, which will detail out every bit of action that needs to be taken to conserve the Pallikaranai, for that matter, any wetland. The Integrated Management Plan for Pallikaranai Marsh was drafted by us, but it has not yet been approved by Government of India. There are some queries, and state wetland authorities actually addressing those queries. Once that is done, the plan will be in operation, and that is how things will go forward. It cannot be an ad hoc kind of an approach. It has to be only that which has been endorsed by the Integrated Management.
What are this? Can you say some specifics from this integrated management plan? Like what kind of things will be done?
We cannot say what kind of things would be done. It will be under these broad categories of protection, restoration, and conservation. These three domains, under which there will be close to 100-150 activities under each of these. For example, if you take restoration, the question of pollution. You need to look at how do you identify the source of the pollution, what characterize the pollution, then get into the thing of how do you handle each of these pollutions. Some of them may be addressed through phytoremediation. Some of them, these are all things that Professor Indu and I have discussed and put in the management plan and recollecting it from there. Then the possibility of using membranes to trap, the possibility of diversion channels, all these. It will be a very nuts and bolts kind of detailed plan. And I should say that Pallikaranai already has this. Because one of the things that not many of us know about Pallikaranai is the fact that as a center or a hub for urban resilience, the application to the Green Climate Fund for Pallikaranai has also been moving very fast. Very soon, there is every chance that GCF may award the first ever project in Tamil Nadu on Pallikaranai Marsh. That's also happening.
What kind of...
It will certainly not be an exercise of desilting and deepening. That much I can tell you, which is what today wetland restoration has come to be in Tamil Nadu. The minute you talk about wetland restoration, people dredge the place up, desilt it, remove the earth, create mounds, create a hillock right in the middle where it shouldn't be there, and then call it restoration. That will not be the case. Yeah, please ask me a question.
What kind of government support is needed? Because we see reports saying that Vedandangal, which is also another Ramsar Tag site, does not have sufficient funds for maintenance. So,
Pallikaranai thankfully is not in such a bad condition. But the government, this is an area that's owned by the government. So it's for the government to execute whatever it's committing itself to through the integrated management plan. Once the IMP is done, multiple channels need to be explored. One of the things that's worthy of exploring is the Green Climate Fund. Next, of course, the National Adaptation Fund. Then, of course, there are so many corporates around who can pitch in. In fact, a good number of very good corporates, like, for example, HCL, they do a lot of work they're on the southern periphery. They do a lot of work on wildlife and on restoration. Cognizant. These are people who could be approached and they could fund the authority, the conservation authority. That could be done. Certainly be done. This can certainly become a showpiece, a showpiece where nature reserve in the middle of a metropolitan city. That's how it should be. But for that, the government also has to slightly tweak its approach. We've also tried to facilitate many a time dialogues between the corporates and the government. It doesn't go anywhere beyond a point. That what should I say? Inertia needs to be broken.
Janakarajan, so what do you think? What kind of government agencies do you think should be taking responsibility for this? Where do you think we lost it, and who should be held responsible, or who all should take action? Who all should be roped in?
Are you asking who should be accountable or should take the responsibility? Well, there are any number of departments, agencies, official agencies who should be held responsible for the present state of condition of the marshland, whatever degradation that have taken place for decades. I think it's all done not by one department, many departments, many official agencies are involved, and we can't really pinpoint to any one particular department. Quite apart from that, I would like to really raise a very important issue to Jayshree. Jayshree, you've been saying that you would like to restore. You are restoring. Your attempts to restore the marshland. I would like to ask you, what do you mean by restoration? When you say restoration, it always means you restore something which existed before. This is with respect to a benchmark, right? Now, supposing you were talking about a wetland that existed 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Is what you are restoring? See, today, the kind of a restoration that people are talking about is just a cosmetic intervention. I'm very, 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 very sad about it. These are I would not call it a restoration. These are interventions which are cosmetic in nature, absolutely cosmetic in nature. So, let's not dump that in the broader, the concept of a restoration, which is actually a cheat. I won't agree. I'm sorry to use this as a strong word, because you get money. You in the sense, the official agencies get a lot of money for restoration in the name of restoration, but then they don't do it. In my view, the first and foremost is to restore water supply to the wetland. Can you do it? That's the first step. First ever step to to restore the wetland. That is when you will attract bird and biodiversity. Whatever the contribution to the fish production, reproduction of biodiversity, all that is possible only when there is water. See, tell me, you won't see, except the 3 months, 4 months during the monsoon months, the rest of the time is literally dry, and you still call it a wetland. Now, I'm very sorry to say that. And that is why I'm really saying you really have to restore water supply. Is there a possibility for you to get all the surpluses from the upstream tanks, which used to be the case before 100 years, before 30 years, 40 years ago? Today it doesn't happen. In fact, Srinivasan was saying that when he was in the Christian college and both sides of the present road was full of road. I have also seen it in the 80s when I used to travel. I was also in the Christian college. When I used to travel, it was amazing. There was only one stop. After Valacheri, there was only one stop. There were no bus stops before reaching our Pallikaranai village. It was a village. Before reaching the Pallikaranai village, there was no stop. Absolutely no stop. Today, how many stops exist between Valacheri and the Pallikaranai village? So that is the kind of a development. So that is where the ridges and all kinds of islands were created. So the water flow has been restricted. So I think this is something. So that it is very important for us. It is easy to find funds. You have got a climate fund. You've got lots of corporate social responsibility. Say CSR money. There are all kinds of money available. But how far are we going to be successful in restoring? Are we going to restore, or are we going to do the cosmetic interventions? This is my question.
You want me to answer that?
Would you like to, ma'am?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully with him as far as making a mockery out of restoration is concerned, and that was the point I was flagging too. And restoration, at least restoration ecology, those of us who practice that, we are very well aware of the fact that in systems that are dominated by humans, such as metropolitan cities, or for that matter, even peri-urban areas, 100% restoration is a facade. There's no way you can recover a place to its original condition in such instances. So we have benchmarks, saying beginning with the lowest being relictual restoration, which is a 10% restoration. From there until 2025, these benchmarks are set, and we will work out a realistic target. But hydrological flows are very critical to the marsh. That's something nobody can dispute. To revive that is where the focus should be, and all these have been worked out. These have been worked out at a scale of 5 hectares. In fact, we have a GIS-based interventional model which talks about restoration of Pallikaranai marsh at a scale of 5 hectares, which is the finest scale that you could think of. The next question, the next part of the question, the comment that Professor Janakarajan made as to whether people are willing to do it, whether it can be done, that we need to work. We need to work with the authorities, because this entire system is with only one department, that is the Tamil Nadu Forest Department, and it is part of the State Wetland Authority. So we'll have to work with them and make sure that this is done.
Thank you, ma'am. This is an open question to all the panelists. So I would like to know what role does a local there could take part? What should they look out for? How could they contribute in conservation of this wetland?
From my view, the citizens in and around the marsh will play a major role, in also acting as a watchdog to protect. However, they also have a series of major issues that confront them, especially with regard to the air pollution, when there is large-scale burning that happens. Or their groundwater, starts getting polluted. It is polluted now. So the locals basically will be the people, who will always be in the forefront of the struggle to protect this marsh, because it really affects their livelihood also in a major way, as far as the living is also concerned.
Yeah, I would like to add to what Dr. Srinivasan has said. In terms of the local, if you look at the local bodies, it's not just around the marshland. Pallikaranai receives water from all the way from Tambaram, Tachamalai, from that area in the south and in the west. So there are as much as 40, Jayshree might know the exact number, 40 to 50 lakes across the western side of the marshland, which is connecting to the Pallikaranai marshland. And we know that these lakes are connected and finally they drain into the marshland. But with all the encroachment, there has been a lot of connectivity has lost, or the connection, the channels have been encroached and reduced in size, and the lakes have been lost their capacity. So we know all these issues. So we need to look at it holistically and not just look at just the marshland and the problems in the marshland. So we have to see that the watershed, entire watershed of Pallikaranai marshland is restored.
And
Yes, ma'am.
reiterating the point that Professor Indu and Srini made, see, when you focusing just on the area that's now designated as a protected area to the neglect of the adjoining area, which essentially is the watershed, will not work. We actually had used this word ecological extension. Pallikaranai Marsh exists not only because it's a wetland or near wetland or semi-natural wetland, also because of the presence of buffered areas, such as the Gindi National Park, the Nanmangalam Reserve Forest, Madampakam Forest. The role of such adjoining patches cannot be discounted also. We need to take an approach that way. When it comes to involving the local, I think active participation in the conservation authority at the level of the executive committee is how they can really influence whatever is happening in Pallikaranai. We used to have these meetings some years ago, but now the last 5-6 years we've not had many meetings. I think this is a good opportunity to revive those meetings, and the government can actually convene these meetings and people can contribute their ideas. Cannot be done on a volunteer-based work. That kind of things don't work here. What you need is new thoughts, new ideas. That's how it should be.
Kindly switch on my audio, please. Video, please. Can I talk? Radhakrishnan here.
So, yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Rotary Radhakrishnan. Rotary has taken environment as the 7th focus area after COVID got into a thing. So what I would like to state that is, now we got to create a movement. Then only it is possible to change the whole system. We have started a movement with Rotary to restore all the 4 rivers and Buckingham Canal. In a slow and steady way, we want to create awareness and take it forward. A massive movement by the citizens is required. Everyone should get involved, then only we can do it. Otherwise, it's going to be a dangerous situation. Tsunami hit us, we took it lightly. Then 2015, we had the deluge. Still we are sleeping. Now, Rotary has taken it in a very serious way. We will create the needed awareness and take it forward. With all the government departments, we want to work. I already started working with Professor Janakarajan. He is in our team. We'll just see how to take it forward. That's my view.
Thank you, sir. Professor Janakarajan, would you like to add on the involvement of locals? What do you think should they look out for?
Local people definitely have a role to play, and they should really, keep putting pressure on the official agencies for protection as well as for the restoration to the extent possible of the wetlands. No, but the most important is government should really take a proactive role. That is very important. Unless the government takes a proactive role in a sustainable manner, it is going to be very difficult. I'm saying this because I've been watching this for 3 decades now, 4 decades now, for how this wetland has steadily got deteriorated. So now at least government should really make sure that as far as possible evict all the encroachments, make sure that they don't really new roads and fresh roads, and declare it as a ecologically protected zone. And that's very important. And they also have to say what does it mean when they declare it as a ecologically protected zone. When they say it is under the Ramsar Tag, they should make it public. What are their plans to do? What are that 10 years from now? What is the 10-year program or 20-year program? What do they want to do? Nothing of that kind. Because a mere biomining of the legacy waste is not going to be very helpful. Because you really have to have a 10-year program of what you want to do. Make it public. Make it a deep. Let people talk about it. Because that is what is lacking. So people's movement is very useful and it should go on. But then government has got to be much more proactive, and they should make their plans visible, and they should make their plans public. Let people talk about it. Because at the moment, the academic institutions are involved. That's a good thing. There's many academic institutions are involved, and they've been doing a lot of very useful scientific research. These data should be utilized carefully, for protection. To what extent the research results are utilized, and whether any chemical analysis has been, I really don't know. For instance, when there is Wetland Authority of Tamil Nadu constituted, I am told that the authority has not even met once ever since it was constituted.
Thank you, sir. So, would like to open the floor for the audience. If you have any queries to the panelists or share your thoughts, it's open now.
So one of the issues that we have seen is the construction of so many structures around the marsh, and which possibly have also affected the continuity of water flow. And we all know that the water drains towards that side. We have had anecdotally, we know that there have been so many years of severe flooding in that region where the built-up structures are there. So in the integrated management plan, does the CMDA and those who give permissions to build, do they also have a role, and are they as invested in this whole matter as the forest department and the ecology authorities?
Addressed to me.
Would you like to take it, ma'am? Yes.
Who sir was asking that question to?
I think it would be better if you could answer that.
Yeah,
anyone. If it's part of the plan and if you're able to throw some light, that would be good.
It is certainly part of the plan, sir. It does talk about reviving those and removing structural impediments, stuff like that. But the hard and bitter truth of the whole thing is much of the area where the built-up area has actually occurred, it's irreversible. It's gone forever. These are areas that cannot be revived or restored at all. But whatever can be has been identified and flagged as areas where structural impediments have to be removed to enable hydrological flows. That has been given, and it also suggests the plan talks about how other line departments, notably the planning authorities, the local bodies, the Metropolitan Authority. A few years ago, there was this massive proposal to dredge the marsh and have a new stormwater canal laid cutting across the marsh. So such harebrained ideas were also put forth many a time, and so we are working towards it. But I would say that the kind of interest that the forest department has is yet to be seen in the other departments. This is seen as a forest area. It's not seen as a nature reserve, a Ramsar site within a metropolitan city. In fact, I could stretch that a bit and say, even within city planning, none of the forested areas are accounted for or taken into consideration. It's as if they exist in vacuum. So the planning is done only for other areas. Forest areas are never accounted for.
So Janakarajan, maybe you have some views.
No, actually, some time ago, I think last year, there were plans to desilt the wetland. I really have to laugh at them. Can you really desilt a wetland? Wetland is supposed to be like a sponge land with a lot of sediments and so on, and you don't desilt it. And this is the kind of a restoration plan they have. Actually, in my view, the Department of Environment and Department of Forest should jointly institute a study in which they should really go into the details of what exactly are they going to do for another 10 years, 20 years. They should have a plan of action. They can't enter into ad hoc plans. It's really sorry. It's a very sorry and sad state of condition. Now, there are people like Jayshree who have worked on this for decades. I think they should really, and there are many other ecologists who have specialized in this field who should really constitute a team to really look into the issue, and then they should suggest what should be the measures. It is one thing to say, look, the buildings have come up, roads have come up, and then there are the dump site for garbage. Yes, of course, these have got to be removed as far as possible, but then that's not enough. When you say restoration, it means a lot. You are talking about the ecological restoration. It means a lot, hell of a lot. You really have to go into the scientific details of what exactly you should do. For instance, you're talking about, the water circle, you're talking about the groundwater recharge, talking about the flood as a flood moderator. Will it serve that purpose now? What are you going to do as far as restoring those functions are? Easy, I tell you, with the 54 square kilometers of wetland, it would have been such a beautiful, wonderful, site to beat the urban heat islands. Will it do that job today? Will it help to beat the urban heat islands, which is going to become a huge issue in the days to come due to climate change? These are all the issues. So as far as possible, even if there's a 550, 600 hectares of land that we have, make sure that this attracts water, stores water, contributes to biodiversity, and then contributes to beating the urban heat islands. That it contributes to the local climate, microclimate. These are all the issues that really have to list and make sure that the ecologists and the government agencies work proactively. Otherwise, in bits and pieces, ad hoc interventions, cosmetic interventions is not going to help. And I'm proud of Pallikaranai Marsh being listed as a part of the Ramsar Tag. Yes, but then you really have to prove that that we are indeed protecting the marshland proactively and scientifically and for ecologically in an ecologically sustainable manner. It's a very, very important. No point in saying that we have the Ramsar site, and no point in being proud of that. You really have to prove it that you have indeed proved it.
Thank you, sir. We have time for another question. Would any of the participants that wanted a question to our panelists? That's it. Yes.
I am Ganapati, retired special correspondent of the Hindu.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
As reporter of the Hindu in the Kaveri Delta for 3 decades, I have come across Point Kalimar and 2 other Ramsar sites also there. Birds have been coming there for hundreds and thousands of years. Similarly, they have been coming to Pallikaranai also. Unfortunately, because of human intervention, the thing is no longer sustainable for them. So all that we have to do is, of course, all is a very simple word, is that the line department, especially the forest department, and the people who are living nearby should be made aware and also ensure a small immediate plan, medium-term plan, and long-term plan, so that we could, after 10 years, try to achieve the aims of a Ramsar declared place. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I
So,
think
Shobhan,
we
I
have.
just wanted to
Please,
make
please, sir.
one point before you close.
Please go ahead. Please go
Um,
ahead.
it would be useful if the state can undertake a scientific study to get an estimate on what is the price that the state has been paying or has paid due to the degradation of wetland. That's very important. You were talking about the reversal. Is it that easy? Let's suppose, your last 54 square kilometers, it come down to 5.4 square kilometers. What does it mean? So what is the kind of an ecosystem loss? Can you get an estimate on that? So what is the kind of a loss due to the groundwater pollution? What is the loss due to the, the pollution of the soil and so on? What is the kind of a loss that we have been incurring due to the lack of water storage in the marshland, and what is the kind of a loss that you made due to the function that the marshland has lost, that it is a flood carrier, that it floods elsewhere, and what is the flood damages done due to the loss of Pallikaranai marshland. So this is something, unless you understand, unless you examine this, unless you make a study of this, you will not really do the intervention. You will still enter into one-day cosmetic interventions.
Professor Janakarajan, if I may supplement, I distinctly remember that Professor Vencatesan, MIDS, has done a study on these parameters. I don't remember the content of it.
No, I remember, in fact, Vencatesan is now part of, he is attending. He has done what is called a study on willingness to pay for, it's called the contingent valuation method, in which he tried to understand what is the local people are willing to pay. For
he followed it up with one more study of all the wetlands.
Yeah, I think Venkatesalam is here. I think Venkat, would you like to respond?
Oh,
yeah, please. Okay. Yeah, please.
I didn't know that.
So basically, very recently we did a study for 80 wetlands across the state, and one of the wetlands is Pallikaranai wetland. We have not only used this contingent valuation method, but also used other types of methods like revealed preference methods, because economic valuation of ecosystem services loss is a very difficult task. One of the major issues with the management of wetlands is that we don't have proper information about the economic importance of the wetlands. Okay, so why do we protect these wetlands? Because very often we are talking about restoration and things like that, which involve public money, scarce resources. So, for example, on Pallikaranai alone, it seems that around 1,300 crores of money, public money, has been used to restore that wetland. Actually, this is kind of figure that I have got from one of the reports from Indian Express sometimes back. So 1,300 crores had been invested on Pallikaranai, as Professor Janakarajan rightly said, on a piecemeal basis, here and there, then and now, like that. But what is the benefit that comes out from this restoration effort? So that we don't know. So basically, many of us, of course, Mr. Srinivasan, Professor Janakarajan, they know this wetland for the past 40 years or so. But an youngster who is traveling through Pallikaranai wetland considers Pallikaranai as a wasteland, because he sees the solid waste being dumped in the wetland, liquid waste is being dumped in the wetland, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it is considered to be a wasteland. And therefore, the common people are concerned about, why should we protect these wetlands actually. So, but fortunately, the declaration of wetlands as Ramsar sites indeed create a lot of awareness among the people, especially about the economic importance of the wetlands. And our study suggested that all these 80 wetlands right now are experiencing a whole lot of problems like siltation, encroachment, pollution, infestation of invasive species, and so on and so forth. As a result, they have lost their capacity to generate ecosystem services. There are around 36 different types of ecosystem services which are being generated by the wetlands and which are being used by people at the local level, at the regional level, right? But many of these wetlands have lost the capacity, and therefore they generate only 5 or 6 different types of ecosystem services. And that too also, the quality of these ecosystem services is of very poor quality in nature. So what we have done is that we estimated the value of ecosystem services generated by these wetlands at present with all these kinds of problems actually. So that comes to around 4,300 crores per annum, right? So this estimation is not based on contingent valuation, but we have used production function approach, hedonic pricing method, travel cost method, varieties of scientific valuation methods. But we also estimated the potential value, maximum value that can be generated in case all these wetlands are restored to their full capacity, not the original capacity, but for example, in the case of Pallikaranai wetland, we have got only 737 hectares of land right now. So if the restoration takes place in the 737 hectares of land, what would be the maximum potential value that could be coming from the restoration of the wetland? So we have included only a possible number of ecosystem services, but definitely not some of the important ecosystem services like the absorption of seawater due to sea level rise, or carbon sequestration, because the methodology, the data, we had a whole lot of problems with these kinds of things actually. So with kind of conservative estimation, what we have found is that in case these 80 wetlands are restored to the full capacity, then these wetlands are capable of generating 17,000 crores per annum. Right now they are generating only 4,300 crores. That means that every year we are losing around 13,000 crores just from 80 wetlands. Tamil Nadu has got 42,000 wetlands, small, medium, large wetlands. But of course, in these 80 wetlands, we have covered some of the large coastal wetlands also. So this is the kind of figure that, gets everybody's attention actually, right? And of course, as I said, this is a conservative estimation, but when we include all other values potentially generated by the wetlands, then this figure 17,000 crores may go up substantially. So in order to protect the wetland, first of all, we need to generate information, useful information that would be used for creating awareness among all stakeholders, including the government, and that will be useful for managing the wetlands once they are declared as protected areas or as Ramsar sites, right? So therefore, we have to focus on generating useful information in the coming years. So that is the starting point for managing the wetlands on a sustainable, efficient, and equitable manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes. We're over time, a little over time, and we're beginning the webinar now. Summary of this webinar will be published in SaciWATERs website shortly, and we can have a look at that as well. I would like to thank all the panelists. It was a very insightful discussion. Probably getting a Ramsar tag is one thing, but as the panelists rightly pointed out, we have a very long way to go, and I hope we all work together. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.